Hi there, let's do some assembly now on your gnome. So this is the tube that I was making on my Addi King, and you can do it on a 40-pin machine too. And I did about 115 rows is a good length. You get about a little over a 12-inch gnome. That way you can make them shorter or taller depending on your preference. So you just sew the ends together and finish it just like you would a hat, so both sides look like that. And then to start with, you want some weight on the bottom, and I have a million of these laying around from my wedding a while ago, and so I just used like 3 handfuls of those, and it just helps with the weight on the bottom, so that way it will stand up straight and not fall over all the time. And you can use just whatever. People use rice and that kind of stuff too. I just like using something that's not edible. And then you just stuff the tube, kind of rearrange it and squash it around as you go until it's filled basically all the way up to the top. Now that you've got the stuffing in there, is take another piece of yarn and use a tapestry needle. Thread it through between the 2 layers on the top here. And pull it through. You should have just a little bit of extra room at the top here because we're going to squish it here to make his head. So the stuffing will distribute a little bit. Cinch it closed, and you can just get this as tight as you can, and then just knot it a few times. Okay, I have the top sewed through now, and so here it is. It looks like this, just a stuffed tube for right now. And now for mine, I squish the top here about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches, so that way it looks like a head. You can make a hat on the knitting machine, or I like to use both of my crochet and my knit newborn size hats fit on these, and so I like to use those. It just adds a little bit different texture, and so you can also use the hat as a guide too for where you want to put the head at. You see, that makes it a little bit easier. And then it also gives you a nice clear line for where you put the beard at too. Okay, so we have the body all sewed now, so it looks like that. And now we're going to be adding the beard. I'm just going to use white for this one since he's very bright blue. You can use whatever color you want. I use a 6x6 square. Works about the best for this size gnome because then you match it up to the neckline here, and then it doesn't quite touch the floor. And then once you have it on, you can trim it the way you want it to. So I just start at the very top with my hot glue right in the center. Start here in the line where his neck is. And then do the sides here. Kind of curve it up a little bit into the neck. And then we've got the beard started there, and then you can go and you can glue either the whole thing down or just some of it. That is kind of up to you. For right now, I'm just going to do the very top for the video, but usually I glue down basically the whole thing all the way down. And then you can try it out with your hat. see how it looks. There's my guy so far. Looking pretty good. And so now we need a nose. And so I know a lot of people use those little wooden balls, and you can use that. You can use basically anything that's round for the nose. I use fabric scraps because I have a billion from making masks last year, and so I find that it's more fun that way anyways, because you can do patterns and like contrasting colors instead of all just wood. So that's totally up to you, but this is how I do it. This is like a 4 or 5 inch square or circle of fabric, and then you just sew around it about half an inch or an inch in, and then you stick a little bit of stuffing in it and cinch it closed. Alright, so it'll look like that, and you can squish it around and then it'll look kind of like an oval, and then just tie it off. Stick your extra fabric inside the back there, and then I tie it off and add a little bit of hot glue here to hold it. Okay, so here's my nose all finished, and then what I do is I have 2 strands of yarn here, and I just want to move the hat or take it off altogether. Center your nose right in the neck, right above the fur, and then I sew it all the way through to the back of his head. That way you know your nose isn't going anywhere. So there's the top one. And then for the second strand, you can go through the fur if you want to too. That helps make sure it stays put. And then to the back again. And just rearrange your fur a little bit. Sometimes you need to brush it, get it looking the way you want it to. Mine's a little crinkly. I need to get it wet and straighten it after this. But then you just pull them from the back, and then you can, that helps make a little bit more of an indent too, you can see. So there's my guy so far. And then all you do is you just tie off the nose back in the back here, and then sew these in. And now he has a nose and his beard. And then you can stick your hat on, and I usually like to, I sew around the bottom of the hat so that way it's not going anywhere, and you can just sew around it basically right where the neckline is, and you can stop here if you want to, and you would have a finished gnome. I also like to add arms to your gnome. I think it just makes it a little bit, they're funnier that way, and they just look a little bit more finished. So in order to do that, I make arms on the 22 needle machine, and you do 50 rows for that, and then you double it up and sew it together just like you would a little tiny hat. So I have both of these done already. And then you just stuff them pretty lightly because you don't want the arms to be too round. Just enough so that they keep their shape, basically. Like so. Yeah, just a little bit more. There we go, and then kind of squish things around a little bit. So there you have a a flat seam here, and then both of your yarn tails are here. And then what you want to do is turn your little guy to the side here, and then figure out how you want to do arm placement. So I usually do about right here. So then that's what it will look like from the front. And then the arms stick out a little bit there, and then he can hold things if you want him to, or whatever. So just tie these together, because I usually use both strands to sew it onto the body. That way it's on there really secure. So here's that, and then just want to place these and really do this just to make sure it's super secure on there, is to flip them over here, push your yarn through to the back of the arm, and as you can see, it can come out kind of like that, and I just sew in a few times through here, back and forth, so that way it keeps his arms kind of pinned at his side like that instead of flopping outwards. And so then you would just repeat for the other side, making sure that you kind of match them up there. All right, I have both arms sewed on now. So here's what he looks like finished. This is what the back side looks like. You can kind of squish him around to get him even. And then the arms on the sides. And I have also, if I'm feeling extra fancy too, you can wrap cloth around the back here so it looks like he's wearing a shirt, and then before you attach the arms, you would wrap cloth around here for sleeves too, and then sew through. I've done that too if you want him to be wearing clothes. And then you can add, with the arms here, you can add things so he can be holding something. So for this one, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have him holding his hat like this. So it'll sit in front of him. And then I'm going to string this snowflake. It's got fishing wire attached to it. And I'm going to string his snowflake so he's holding it in between his arms there like that. So the arms make it kind of fun because you can add lots of extra embellishments and all of that. And so that's how I make my gnomes. Thanks for watching.